Hello everyone and welcome to the Valeo Experience YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Giselle Miller here in the lovely island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is my pleasure to be with you guys another time. This is season 2 and we are looking at resilience, bouncing back. In life we have so many challenges, so many things, bad experiences that we have to try and work our way through. And this season we are looking primarily at how can we navigate these difficult times? Before we have looked at domestic violence, and now we are looking at the topic of divorce. Yes, divorce. In St. Vincent and in a lot of the Caribbean territories, we have heard that there is seemingly a taboo when you talk about singleness, much more divorce, that persons are feeling that if you're divorced then something is wrong with you. Today I have my friend and sister who will be sharing her experience with divorce here in the small island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is my pleasure to welcome my sister and friend, Paul McMaster. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Miller. Thank you for having me today. Thank you.
I am so happy that you took the opportunity to come. So it's a difficult topic, and being your friend, I have been there from the start. But it is very important that we spend some time actually looking at this, situation as it relates to going through a broken relationship that ended in divorce. Now, when persons get married, we all get married with the idea that it's forever. And I can say we all because I too would have had my own experience with divorce. It is something that I don't want to believe that any of us would have anticipated that if you're getting married, it's going to end in divorce. And it's a lot to navigate. It's a lot to think about. I would imagine there are some highs and some lows. So I'm going to ask you the first question. Did you at any point fathom the thought of divorce?
No. Divorce has never been part of my repertoire. And as you rightfully said, nobody gets into marriage, as a matter of fact, wanting to be divorced. But it happens. And so it would have been, 7 years now since I've been divorced. And as you said, there were its up and its downs, its challenges. And for me, it was like riding on a roller coaster at times. Earlier in the whole aspect of the divorce, but as time went by, things became easier, things became more manageable, emotions were more manageable, and I was able now to move on to other things, as time progressed.
Right. If you were to identify probably the one thing that was probably the worst of it all, what would you say that would have been?
For me, with the whole divorce aspect at one time, people have different reasons for getting divorced in marriages, and things happen. And for me, what really grabbed me as a woman was I felt a sense of rejection.
Yeah.
And so you start questioning who you are. You start questioning your identity.
Right.
You're not sure. You're wondering about things. Why this? Why that? And so for me, I had to grapple with the idea of who I was and what brought me to that situation. And there are things that I would have worked out, but I think the hardest part for me was that feeling of rejection, which then I think progressed into depression. That was my main stick, per se.
So when we think of divorce, oftentimes we think about the whole grieving process. And one of the things I say to persons a lot is that even losing a loved one and losing a relationship, pretty much sometimes the very same dynamic. So we have different stages: the denial, we have anger, the bargaining stage, depression, and then finally acceptance. Did you see it coming, or was it a case where you felt like the rug was literally pulled from under you?
I would say the latter, and I will tell you how I described it. I remember writing a poem during that time.
Yeah.
And in that poem, I said, it felt as if I was on the dance floor, dancing to nice waltz, music with my partner. And then suddenly, the music changed. I wasn't ready for a tango, more or less. And so it's like both persons now ended up dancing two different things. I'm still waltzing while the other half into tango. So that's how it felt for me. I didn't expect it. And I shouldn't say maybe not expect because for me the situation was that I was the one who filed for the divorce. And it was a situation where I felt at that particular time that was the next best thing for me to do for myself and my child at that time, my baby at that time. I felt I needed to be whole for her. I felt as if things were getting away from me. During that time, I lost my dad. And so for me, I felt as if I had lost the two men in my life. And so I needed to get myself together for my daughter. And I felt after a year, 2 years, I was like, it's not going anywhere. You try to work things out, and that was it. I made up my mind, you know what? Let me go forward. Let me do this, and let me just get myself together so I can focus on my daughter. And that's what I did. I mean, it would not be the same for everybody. That was a personal decision that I made for me. It's not necessarily a thing that another woman might make or another man might make for themselves. Everybody have to know for themselves where they are at that particular time. And so you make a decision based on many different circumstances or what is happening around that time. And so I felt, and so I did that. But for me, it moved quite fast. I think, and maybe it's my personality, I don't like to linger in things, especially if you find it's not beneficial to you mentally, because I was at a stage mentally where I needed to be whole. Mind you, I was a public minister. A gospel minister. He's a gospel minister. And for me, it was a public thing. So I wasn't only dealing with my private inside situations, but I also had to grapple with my public image. I had to grapple with the fact that, she's a Christian and she divorced and I'm telling you, and I had to deal with that aspect. So I felt the quicker I move, the better for me.
In St. Vincent, Pearl McMaster is a household name. She's well known in the gospel arena as a worship minister, a preacher, and she goes around working with youths, women, motivational speaking, and the likes. So I would imagine that being such a popular person, then public opinion as it related to your divorce would have been a major issue. How did you deal with that?
Well, if I tell you, I just put one foot in front of the other, and I just went with it. I think the attitude that I took towards it was that, you know what, this is my story. Nobody's perfect, and this is my story, and my story, something good will come out of it. And I'm around to really talk about it, because it is through my divorce that really pushed me to get into some things, to dig deeper. I'm telling you, as a worship minister, as a gospel artist, there were times that I had to go in front of people, minister, preach, sing, worship lead, and go back home to an empty house. Worship, sing, and still deal with my depression, deal with my loneliness, and so on and so forth. So I knew that was my story.
Yeah.
And I know that there are other women who would have gone through it before and overcame, and who may be going through it right now. And so for me, as a public figure, I sometimes just went out, smiled, did what I had to do, encouraged others, ministered to others, and then I go back home.
Yeah.
You know, but it was difficult. But as time went by, it became easier.
Yeah.
It became easier because at that point now, Dr. Miller, I had to learn to dig deep into myself. I had to now walk through some feelings. And sometimes as women, when we go through divorce, some emotions come out. Sometimes you don't even know where they come from.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at a point in my life where I felt bitter towards my partner. I felt angry. I felt lonely. There was just many different feelings. I had to walk through all of them. There was even a level of unforgiveness. And as a minister, I had to walk through each and every one of those emotions. I had to forgive. And in time, forgiving, being forgived, because I will say this, it is not one side alone. Sometimes you have to take responsibility, and I took responsibility for some things. And you know, go from there, you forgive, you ask for forgiveness, and you move on. As I said, I don't like to linger with things, because as a minister, I knew that I had a job to do. I have a work to do. I have a purpose, and I needed to get with the program and get with the program very fast. And I had a daughter that needed to see me.
Your resilience.
Yes, needed to see me. I tried my best for her not to see the sad part going through. I tried my best for her not to see the bitterness, the angriness that I went through, that I had. And I exposed her only to the good things. And God was able to bring me now to a point where, from, at least by some funny, from seeing your ex-husband on one part of the street in Kingstown and choose to walk the other side, totally different to, hey, how you doing? Oh, you know, and being able to communicate and be civil with each other and co-parent.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been a challenge, but it has also been a learning experience for me.
Yeah. And what about the support system? Because one of the things about divorce as well, when you split, persons pledge their allegiance to either side and they go their separate ways. What was your support system like?
I'm happy for the support system I had. I don't know if I didn't have that. I don't know where I would have been. It is important that while people choose sides, rightly so, people would have their favorites and they would have their reasons. It is important that there are persons around you that are there to support you emotionally, spiritually, and even sometimes financially. I was happy to have friends, groups, you know, that were able to help hold me up as a minister. And one of the things that people get tricked with as a public person, and they look at you, and people looked at me, and that's one of the things that I experienced as a minister. They looked at me and everybody figured, oh, Pearl is strong. She's a strong woman, you know. You know, she knows how to pray and she knows how to. And what happened to me, because people had that conception that I'm strong and I'm this and that, people stayed away. There were people who I thought would, you know, ask me how I'm doing, would step in, would didn't. And that was the hardest part for me.
I think for some persons that it is a matter that they're not sure what to say.
Understand.
They're not sure how to be in that situation, and because it's so sensitive, they withdraw. Not out of, you know, a lack of care
Mm-hmm.
and concern, but it's safer for me on this side. So I'm going to be that person that is neither taking left or right. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
going to be in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and when I feel I can, then I will. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, sometimes we have to give them that because it's that person's choice. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, how has it been? You said it has been 7 years, so obviously all of the stages will have probably
Yeah.
been seen and
Mm-hmm.
you know
Mm-hmm.
felt.
Mm-hmm.
Now you are 7 years out of a divorce, you know, coming out on the other end of a divorce. Where are you now in terms of your love for self and you know your own path with singleness and dealing with all that comes with it?
Well, right now I'm whole.
Hmm.
I'm happy. I have a beautiful 9-year-old that I'm taking care of, and make sure she grows up well. And I am at the point where I'm focusing on really what God wants me to do.
Right. And that's what we have to do. It's about the will of God in our lives. And persons don't understand the journey. And I think persons have a mindset that as a Christian, it is a particular, you know, it goes a particular way. But when we look at all of the different biblical characters, their journey has not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily been what we consider to be perfect
Mm-hmm.
Christian
Mm-hmm.
journeys.
Right.
So we all take different roads. Now, in wrapping up, because I know I've kept you on the hot seat for a little while, two more questions. One being, if it is you had the opportunity now to speak to someone who is probably going through something similar, feeling abandoned in their marriage, totally unhappy, probably losing themselves for different reasons, and the thought of divorce is coming to mind, but you're a Christian, you're in the church, you've been praying, and things are not working out. What would you say to that person?
Um, for me, it's a thin line that we tend to walk, especially in the church, when it comes to leaving a marriage, and remarrying. Every church or the doctrines, persons have their doctrines with regards to divorce, remarriage. Now, when it comes to, if I have to advise somebody who's going through something like that, a divorce, or going through a situation where they're in their home with their husband and they're praying, you're talking to God, they're not seeing any change, things are happening. It takes two.
Mm-hmm.
It takes two for the marriage to work. And I'm gonna say this: you could pray, and pray, and pray, and pray, and do all the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And if the other partner is not doing their part, you're not seeing any change, it's getting worse, it's not making an effort to ensure that things, can align and come together. I would, and that's my personal decision. I would say to them, well, if it comes to that and you can't, then so be it. Why be unhappy? Move on.
Right.
That's one. There are other situations also where marriages become abusive.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell a woman or a man or anybody for that matter to stay in a marriage where they're being physically abused as a matter of fact in any way. Get out. Get out. There's a life after.
Mm-hmm.
There's life after. If again you're in a situation where you see that you can come together, both of you are willing to make this thing work, both of you, then work at it.
Yeah.
Work at it, and work at it with all your might to ensure that your marriage is successful.
Yeah.
Some people give up easy. Some people say, that's it, I'm done, I gone. That was my situation. Me and Shane for sister. I just pack up and that's it. Because I felt I tried, I wasn't getting, it wasn't coming back like that at the time. And the persons have to know for themselves. But I left. So again, for everybody, it's going to be different. And people will make their decision based on their situation.
Right. One of the things that persons tend to say a lot is that I don't want to break up the family because of my child. I want my child or my children to have two parents there. the parents are not, they're not working together. It's, there's obviously some challenges going on. Would you say that it's a good idea to stay for the sake of the children, or do you think it is something that it's even better sometimes to co-parent in a healthy way as opposed to be in a home where there's a lot of tension and friction?
Yes, people make decisions like that in terms of staying in a marriage for the kids. You hear it all the time, all the time, all the time. And I don't advise it. Divorce does affect children. Just as a broken marriage, a stressful home, a home with a lot of tension affects children.
Right.
And so sometimes it goes both ways. You can't win. For me, my situation was that, you know what, good thing is my child, she was a baby. She didn't have a clue what was happening. So the younger the children, it might be easier in terms of getting out and so on. But as the children get older and they see what is happening in the home and they understand, children too tend to feed off of that. They tend to make their decisions even for parents in when a marriage is like that. And so I co-parent with my ex-husband, and it's working. We do what we can do for our daughter. We have ensured that what she sees, when it comes to us, is not anger, bitterness, argument, or that sort of thing. So she grew up with that. Right. So she grew up with two loving parents who love her very much, despite that we are not together, we are apart. So I would advise persons, well, really and truly, staying for the kids is not always the right thing.
Right.
And again, everybody's gonna make a decision based on the situation. Right? Maybe on the finances and so on and so forth. But
ideally, you have to know for yourself. In that situation, you have to know exactly what you want from it as an individual. Okay. And Paul, the last question.
I thought that was the last one.
The last question. Would you consider getting back into a marriage, into a relationship? Would you try it again?
Well, the Lord's willing. I would leave that up to the Lord. Whatever His will is for my life.
Yeah.
Let's just say I'm open to God's will for my life.
Yes.
That's my
But I will take that. I'm not even going to push anything further. I'm going to take that, because at the end of the day, we all write our own stories.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
We can't sit back and allow other persons to be the narrator and the scribe. Mm-hmm. We have to be the ones to make certain decisions in terms of our own peace of mind, our happiness. And one of the things that I strive for, and I tell persons, against all odds, I strive for peace.
Mm-hmm.
Your peace of mind is your best asset. When everything else is gone and you can lie down at night and there is absolutely no stress. And when I say no stress, obviously you're going to have certain things that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. But there's a peace that takes over. Yeah. And that peace comes from knowing God as well.
Amen.
That we can now chart our course. And one chapter has ended in your life.
Yes.
And I wish you the very best for whatever the other chapters are going to be.
Thank you.
And if it means that there's going to be some handsome dude, so let it be. So let it be. And I thank you so much again for being here on this episode. And I really hope that the information shared as we discuss divorce and navigating through those difficult experiences, that you're able to take something from it. And one of the most important things I would want to take from what Paul would have said is that if you feel you're losing yourself, it is time to make a check. Mm-hmm. Self-care, self-love, very important. Mm-hmm. Forgive yourself, forgive others. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you're in a better place, because at the end of it, when we have sojourned through certain things, it is important to learn the lessons and move forward. Thank you so much for being a part of this episode, and we'll be back again with another stimulating topic. Take good care. Bye-bye.